Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Shed, a DeKalb resident and the host of Chakira's Corner. This is a show where we discuss pertinent agenda items from the Board of Commissioners meetings with Commissioner Chakira Johnson, the current presiding officer of the Board of Commissioners. We will also share community updates from District 4 of DeKalb County. Commissioner Johnson is also a member of two county committees, the FAB Committee, which handles finance, audit, and budget, and the PWI Committee, which is the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. Commissioner Johnson has 5 focus areas for District 4 of DeKalb County. Those are housing, infrastructure development, youth development, Memorial Drive revitalization, and community connections. And today we are very excited to welcome DeKalb County's Chief Operating Officer, Zach Williams, as our guest on this episode. I'm going to be facilitating a conversation between COO Williams and Commissioner Johnson in a few minutes, but we just wanted to take a second here to get to know you, Mr. Williams, before we bring her on. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thank you. Hopefully you're doing well.
I'm doing well. Yes, I'm so glad that you're able to join us, and I know we're going to learn a lot today.
Yeah, I hope so. It's an honor to be here.
Great. Yeah, so you ran Fulton County before coming to DeKalb.
I did.
What made you want to switch to DeKalb?
Interesting question, Matt. I had a great time at Fulton County. I really enjoyed the people, the opportunity. But there's a couple of key differences, quite frankly, between Fulton and DeKalb that were attractive to me. I was in Fulton County for 5 years. We had a lot of success. We were able to focus on some key issues, health and human services related issues, primarily, as well as during that time, it was really bringing Grady Hospital back to its former prominence. So during those years, 2007, 8 through 2012. But when the opportunity presented itself to come to DeKalb County, first I want to take a really serious look at it. And the more I looked, the more I learned. I thought that DeKalb County offered really a couple of key opportunities that I wanted to emphasize. One was Fulton had been pretty much all but incorporated at that point. So the municipal type services, police, sanitation, planning, a lot of the parks, those types of activities had been absorbed by the various cities. Whereas here in DeKalb, the opportunity presented itself to manage county-wide functions, your human services related functions, water and things like that. While at the same time, we are the municipal government for about 500,000 people. So it's really the best of both worlds. Additionally, when I came aboard, they were looking to emphasize a lot of performance management, process improvement, and those types of activities, which is really where I cut my teeth early in my career and had really developed kind of a knack, if you will, for identifying issues, implementing change management. So all of those opportunities presented themselves here in DeKalb County.
All right, great. That's some great context. Why don't we invite Commissioner Johnson on stage here to round out the conversation a little bit?
Absolutely.
Make
Absolutely.
this a round table. Commissioner
Good
Johnson,
morning.
how
Hey,
are
Matt.
you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Good
well.
morning.
Good morning, Zach. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Hopefully you're doing well.
Good to see you on not a Tuesday.
Yes, exactly.
Is that when you all usually see each other at the
Every
DOT
Tuesday.
meetings? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. That's a great segue to my first question, which is, Commissioner Johnson, give us a sense of how you as a commissioner interact with Mr. Williams, his office, and where your paths cross kind of on a normal basis.
So our paths cross quite often. So as COO, Zach is our point of contact for all of the commissioners. If we need anything from department heads, it all needs to run through Zach. And then as presiding officer, we meet regularly to make sure we're understanding what's on the agenda, what's coming before us. So Zach and I, we cross paths quite often, lots of emails, phone calls, meetings. So that's kind of the role that the COO has with the Board of Commissioners. He is our main point of contact with the administration.
So How would you, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people might not even realize that we have a COO. How would you describe how, I'm going to give you a chance here to flatter Mr. Williams a little bit, which I'm sure he deserves. So I guess it's not flattering, but how would you say his work impacts our everyday lives for constituents?
Right. So, what constituents may not be aware is quite often, whether they're calling a commissioner or it's an agenda item, just about everything, like I said, funnels through Zach and his team. They are our connection to the administration. So, when someone calls us and needs something done, we have to get with the administration to actually do that work. So, as Board of Commissioners, we make legislative decisions, but we cannot actually direct day to day operations. And so, if it weren't for Zach and his work and his amazing team's work, we wouldn't be able to do all the great things that we're trying to do. So, Zach and his team is crucial for us actually moving the county forward and getting things done.
That's great. So, kind of along those lines, Mr. Williams, could you describe what your, like I said, a lot of people might not know we have a COO. Can you kind of describe what that looks like in a brief sketch?
Sure. Here's the best way to articulate it, Matt, is just look at the county as you would any other business. Of course, we're not selling any product per se, but we're in the service business. There's 6,500 employees serving a constituency about 770,000 residents, and then you have visitors and so forth. And so the role of the chief operating officer is to ensure that those policy edicts that are derived by the legislative branch, as well as those executive edicts that are developed by the CEO, are quite frankly are implemented. So it is my responsibility to, and I like to hearken it to like an orchestra leader in many instances, to ensure that the departments are working in concert in a way that achieves the goals of the legislative and the executive branch, the CEO and the Board of Commissioners. Because my role is unique. I report to both the CEO and the Board of Commissioners. So on a daily basis, I manage the operation. I oversee and manage the different aspects of the operation, much like in any other corporation, where, in a corporation, you may have a sales department and you may have a facilities department and all these various departments. Here we have a police department, we have a fire department, a department of watershed management, animal control, and so forth. And each of those operations are here to serve. So it is my responsibility to ensure that the policies and the executive orders are carried out in a way that provides quality service through the variety of our departments that meet the needs of the residents who are ultimately our consumer. So we manage it. I don't use the word managing it like a business, but we manage it in a business-like manner.
Gotcha. Yes. Wow. I mean, along those lines, I know I think the figure I saw, $1.9 billion budget across
Yes.
dozens of departments. I mean, how do you make sure everything kind of keeps running and everyone's kind of working in the same direction?
Sure. So when you have a strong team, you ensure that you have the right people in the right place. You ensure that people have clarity in terms of what is their responsibility. You have the appropriate, quite frankly, accountability, but motivating tools as well to ensure that we all track, and you manage it with routine check-ins, with discussions, with views of dashboards, and just ensuring that when we set out on a policy objective, that we achieve it. And in instances where we are setting forward in a direction and it's not working, we have to have the courage to stop, to course correct, so that we can achieve the desired outcomes. So, on a daily basis, I work with, an outstanding group of leaders, tenured department heads who are all expert in their field. So in many instances, my role, and I believe the most effective leaders understand that their role is to remove obstacles from their subordinates so that they can be successful. So I ensure to the best of my ability that they have the right tools, whether it's computer systems, whether it's financial, whether it's personnel, to get their jobs done. And I also assure that they have the clear understanding of here's what success looks like. And we work together to define what success looks like. And then we go forward and putting plans in place to achieve that success.
And I think it's important to note that he stated he answers to the Board of Commissioners and to the CEO. So Board of Commissioners as a body, yes, but that is 7 individuals. And then the CEO is an 8th individual. That's 8 elected officials with 8 individual ideas and thoughts and goals. And so as the maestro, he has to be able to orchestrate and make sure that he's able to move forward what the body of the board wants, what the CEO wants, but also listen to our individual voices and somehow try to make it all work. It's a hard job.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It's an art. It's an art.
It's an art.
It is an art. Yeah.
Well, you kind of already answered this, but I was going to ask you, Commissioner Johnson, what that looks like from the outside, this oversight of all these different departments, and how that looks from your seat on the Board of Commissioners meetings.
Right. So, and if you, it can be one of those things where it's like, well, I want X. As a commissioner, this is what I want. But as a commissioner, we have to understand that really our power is in the body and in the vote. And that is where we're giving the direction, is by the action that we're taking, the votes that we're making, and the legislation that we're passing. But we also, I know that COO Williams does try very hard to take into account the individual voices and try to have a balanced approach to how things are being managed and things, the priorities that are being set, just outside of what is actually being passed, which, as he mentioned, that is an art and that is a skill set that I think is just one of those ones that you don't get taught necessarily in school. I think it's something that you develop over years and years of experience, as Mr. Williams has.
Oh, that's great. And this is a helpful large picture view. And I'm wondering if we could kind of further examine this by looking at, we were talking before the recording started about the World Cup and that being upon us. And so maybe COO Williams, if you could give us a sense of what your involvement has been in getting ready for this event and what things are looking like now and all that.
Sure. Excellent question, Matt. So interesting enough, whether it's the World Cup or any other large scale event, much of our actions are similar. And much of our action simply requires coordination with the appropriate stakeholders. So in this instance, one of the key stakeholders is the city of Atlanta, and in large part public safety and public safety related concerns. So you have a number of key agencies who are involved from DeKalb County. Our police department is kind of front and center, and they're working very closely, not only with the city of Atlanta and their police department, but they're also working very closely with MARTA, or they're going to be working very closely with MARTA and their police department, because as issues arise, and issues have recently arisen, we see that there's an opportunity for us to bring forth certain resources and leadership to assist in addressing community concerns. So that's a law enforcement component. Our emergency management department, their role is to coordinate all assets that would be necessary in an emergency response. So they're working very closely with our hospitals, public health, and different vulnerable facilities throughout the county to ensure that they take the appropriate steps to protect themselves. And then we have work with our Decide DeKalb, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Discover DeKalb. And a lot of that role is just ensuring that as these events take place, because there will be watch parties and such in DeKalb County, that they go off without a hitch, that they're well supported, well promoted, and that DeKalb County uses this as an opportunity to shine. So behind the scenes, you have a whole host of emergency preparedness type activities going on, but also there will be these, wonderful events that DeKalb County will be part of either hosting or supporting that will help to highlight the good things that are happening in DeKalb County.
Commissioner Johnson, thank you for that, COO Williams. Commissioner Johnson, can you describe how you've kind of, it can tie into that answer, or you can go off in your own direction, but like how you've experienced constituents' feelings and thoughts about the upcoming excitement of the World Cup?
So I will kind of. So those are kind of high level plans, and I'm letting the administration take their lead with it. It's not impacting District 4 too greatly. We've had some interactions, and we've all the commissioners have an appointment on the sports council, and that is working to make there's update meetings on what's happening with that. And so my representative, I believe, was on a call earlier today for that. So that's one way that we're getting involved. But
I gotcha. Good. Okay. So, obviously that's been a big priority because it's such a, international global event that everyone's going to be tuning into. Some other priorities that I looked at from the State of the County address, I'm just going to list them real quick. Upgrading permitting systems, performance dashboards, and the county website were three that were called out particularly. Can you tell us a little bit about the decisions to focus on these areas?
Sure. And so, excellent question. And the reason we focused on those in particular is, well, first of all, we identified where are our biggest pain points, right? What areas do we hear, in many instances, the most complaints?
Yeah.
And our permitting process has had its challenges, quite frankly. And it was very difficult for people to use. And it's not just for the large developments. It's also for the smaller, putting up fence and things like that. And in large part, that was driven by the fact that our computer system, our software system, was very difficult to use. One would put in permit applications, but it would not automatically tell you where you are. Multiple reviewers were not able to review the application and so forth. So we've set out to improve that by getting a new software that will be much more seamless. It will allow residents, developers to input data into the system, multiple reviewers to review simultaneously. And in those instances where there are issues that someone needs to react to, they will be informed by the system. And we feel that will help us tremendously, not only in customer service in those areas, but economic development is critically important too. On the one hand, we cannot be frustrated when we are not attracting businesses sufficiently if we're not doing everything we can to assure that the process flows as well as it could. So we're addressing that. We cannot be as frustrated when businesses or communities have a certain amount of dilapidation or even blight, if it is difficult for them to get permits to upgrade their properties. So we see all that as definitely interrelated. As it relates to the website, that's your front door, right? And in 2026, people want to operate 24/7. They want access to information. We have long since, long gone is the day where people expect to have to go downtown, if you will, and wait in a line to get information. People want to be online, not in line. And our website needed to be modernized. It needed to be simplified. And so those are the types of things that we really focused on addressing. We now have a new website, which is much easier to navigate. We will be implementing some new features in the very near future that will allow for almost like real-time traffic reporting. There's in many instances, if we are doing watershed projects or even real-time incidents where You may have areas that you shouldn't go in because of flooding or what have you. We'll be able to report that. So that's going to be, something that is very important. And it's just another customer service feature. And so we're really focused on customer service. And so each of those things we feel will help us there. As it relates to performance dashboards or performance overall, the CEO, upon week one of her arrival, said, Zach, I need you to very quickly determine where we are as an organization, and there are certain departments where she had heard, and we had all heard, have had challenges historically. We need to bring in someone who can assess what our weaknesses are so that we can get about the business of addressing. So I see that it's much like it's a physical, right? It's a health checkup. Here are those areas that we need to address to better serve the public. So whether those areas we're planning, whether the areas are in 311, whether the areas are purchasing, in a host of areas, we simply needed to focus on what are our weaknesses so that we can address them. And so this is all about providing high quality service to the residents, which is what they would expect.
That's great. Do you want to weigh in on any of that, Commissioner Johnson, and those issues?
Yeah, and I do appreciate Madam CEO taking that approach when she took office, which, me and her took office at the same time. So that helped us as a new board of commissioner, helped me as a new commissioner kind of start learning the process here in the county. I've been hearing the same complaints especially when it comes to our permitting process, and how that impacts our growth as a county, and how it impacts our residents, just our individual property owners. If we're not growing economically as a county, and if part of that is because of our permitting, then our burden to our property owners and that property tax is not getting shared by expansion of commercial properties. So that's one way that has an impact on a resident, and why it should be important for all of our residents that we are taking care of these things. Not just because if you need to come into the system and get a fence permit or some permit at your house, but you should want the county that you live to be efficient and be able to attract more industry and more businesses, because it can help you as an individual, not only help the type of businesses and grocery stores or a coffee shop that you might have in your neighborhood, but it also can attract additional industries and job opportunities. So being able to address those things and approach them head on and do that assessment that we had done last year, and that we're actively working through through the Board of Commissioners, but I believe we get quarterly updates
Yes,
now
ma'am.
on the
Yes, ma'am.
process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in each of the individual committees of jurisdiction, we're getting quarterly updates on where the departments are and how they're improving, because that assessment came back with concrete action items. So it's good to know that they are working through those action items to make those improvements to improve services for our residents.
No, that's great. And so it's going to make things run a lot more smoothly, and in some cases already has, is my
Yes.
big takeaway from that. And all that helps the economic development, which affects all of us. So that's great.
Absolutely.
So this is more of a big picture question, but I'd be curious to hear, COO Williams, how you've seen the county evolve in your time here, and then maybe even as an observer from Fulton County, like how you've seen the development of the county over time.
Sure. And I think our development in large part coincides with, as we improve, we gain, quite frankly, credibility, and we're able to improve more, right? So I believe that the county has certainly been on this trajectory for the last over a decade. And each SPLOST referendum, quite frankly, is a testament to it. We are moving in the right direction. We have been tremendously successful with 2 SPLOST votes that overwhelmingly were approved by the residents. I believe 70% voted for each of the SPLOST. And what has that done? That has allowed us to build new fire stations, pave 300 miles of roads in SPLOST 1, and another 150 to 200 miles of roads will be paved with SPLOST 2. Are revitalizing our health facilities, our police stations, our parks. All of those types of things can really be traced back to establishing and or reestablishing a level of credibility, and then success begats success. So we are moving in the right direction. I think what we were talking about earlier, the study where we were able to be self-reflective and come up with 270 issues that need to be addressed across 18 different departments, and we are addressing them. So the public sees that DeKalb County we're not about a slogan. We're actually moving forward. We're actually providing better service. We have tangible results that you can literally look at.
And I think that's evident in some of the complaints that we're receiving. An example is I get a lot of inquiries about when are we going to start striping the roads, which is not a minor issue. It is an important issue, but in relation to some of the complaints that we probably would have received 5, 10 years ago about when are we going to repair a road, why is this road crumbling, like that to me shows improvement, that we're down to just, okay, we need the paint, we need to restripe the road instead of build a road situation. So to me, that shows the improvement and the progress that we've made over time, that our complaints are getting to more of a beautification aesthetics and not just a structural type of complaint.
It's nice to have those higher quality problems.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, do you want to comment on, in addition, just in addition to what COO Williams said about your time in DeKalb County and how you've seen things progress or evolve?
Yeah, so I've been a resident of DeKalb County for almost 30 years now. Long time, getting old. Anyway.
So that's since kindergarten.
Yeah, kindergarten. Since kindergarten. There you go. Nice save. Thank you, Zach. So you could see the progress that we've made just by the news stories, by we've had our rough times in DeKalb County, but I think previous administrations could help right that ship. This current administration, now that the ship was righted, we're able to do more progressive things and move the county forward. I know Zach said it's not just about a slogan, but my slogan is engineering progress for DeKalb, and that is a key component of when you're engineering something, you're taking a proactive approach, you're looking at the details, and you're being very intentional on the way that you are moving. And I think that is where we are as a county. We are able to not just be reactive, we're being proactive. Our focus on housing and on the unhoused and just all the things that we're able to focus on in this administration is things that we were not able to get to before. Those problems have been there. They've been there for a long time, but when we were dealing with just the very basics and trying to make sure we got the basics right, we weren't able to focus on these accessory issues that we're able to focus on now. So I just think that where our priorities are show the progress that we have made as a county.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. And you have that long view, 30 years, so you can give us some really good context.
Yes.
So something else I wanted to kind of touch on was, I know you, like we said before, COO Williams, you manage dozens of oversee dozens of departments. Do you, and there's a lot of things that everyday life it's easy to not think about, like medical examiners, animal control, on and on it goes. Can you just give us a sense of what those like how should we be thinking about the people providing all those services? Because I know it's a lot of work, and I know it
Sure.
takes a lot of commitment to do that. So I guess I just wanted to give you an opportunity to comment on the however many people in all those departments are working to.
Sure. There are thousands of people in DeKalb County, in DeKalb County government, whether it's our sanitation worker, whether it's medical examiner's office, animal control, planning, who show up, work hard, and tell the truth every day. And so these, and I'm just proud to be a part of this team where people understand the importance of what, what we call the noble profession. I think Wilson is the one who first called it that, but take that. But public service is important, and people recognize that. And I'm proud to be part of a team where people understand that their contribution, and it doesn't need to be, at a department head level. Everyone's contribution matters. Everyone's contribution is part of the overall whole. And in many instances, our staff are also residents. So we are consumers of service, whether it's sanitation, whether it's water, whether it's law enforcement or fire rescue, all of those services. So, I just want to give a shout out to the team because they have done and continue to do an outstanding job, and recognize that we're now in circumstances where people expect things quickly. They want it accurate, they want it quickly. And so that has required us to modify certain business processes, to be more accessible, to be more responsive, and to meet the growing needs, because people are accustomed to 24/7, the Amazon type service. The things are there when you call. And so to the extent possible, we're gearing up to meet that need and that expectation.
Yeah, so to echo COO Williams, I know I try to take every opportunity that I can to thank our employees, because I may be presiding officer, I may be a commissioner, but I'm making decisions, but I'm not the one getting the work done. I'm not the one out there doing the day-to-day work from those decisions that we make. And I know for a fact that if it weren't for the amazing employees that we have, we wouldn't be able to do the job that we're doing. We wouldn't be as successful as we are. So it's always important to take the time out to thank our employees. Again, and no matter what level they are, whether they're at the lowest level, whether they're entry, whether some are intern even, or all the way up to the department heads, it takes every one of them to get this wheel going. They're a cog in the wheel, and they're an important cog in the wheel, and we can't do this without them.
Yeah, I really appreciate both of your perspectives on that. It's, the fire department and the police officers get all the love, and they deserve more love than we give them even. But there's lots of other folks too that are giving of their time and energy and devoting their careers, and we want to make sure to give them some love too. So,
yes,
and it's particularly important where it's a time where it's kind of popular to besmirch government employees, and that hasn't been my experience, at least in DeKalb County. That all these negative things that people like to say about government employees, that's not been my experience. So anyways, so to transition a little bit here, I really want to find out kind of what's going on with the water and sewer program. I imagine most people probably haven't read the whole capital improvement plan, but what does the 4.27 billion investment actually mean for people like
Sure.
me that are living in DeKalb?
Sure. Here's how that's for me, or is that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
I was anxious. Here's what I would say, and I'm going to simplify it, and then we'll talk more. But essentially, it's clean water in, dirty water out, right? And you cannot have an effective civilization without mastering those two things. And this is not a recent thing. You go back to the ancient Egyptians, right? When they were creating aqueducts to do what? Bring clean water in, move dirty water out.
Right.
And with that, with a community's ability to manage those things, you can develop, you can sustain, and so forth. So the $4.27 billion, which will be spent on our capital improvement program over the next 10 years, will do a couple of primary things. One, it will, of course, address the issues that were brought forth in the consent decree, which was essentially a federal lawsuit against the county back in around 2010, because we had not done a very good job of maintaining our sewer system. So it will invest billions of dollars into the maintenance of the sewer system, ensuring that the water treatment or the sewer treatment plants are effectively not only managed, but are upgraded so that they can support the growth and development. It will also include replacement of sewer pipes throughout the county that will allow for the flow. That's the dirty water. But it will also put money into the Scott Candler water treatment plant. That is our one water treatment plant that sustains the entirety of DeKalb County's clean water. Brings water in from the Chattahoochee River, distributes it to essentially the 780,000 residents in DeKalb County, and then the water goes out either through the Snapfinger water treatment plant or RM Clayton, which is in Atlanta. But we have to be able to have a closed loop system that allows for the clean water to move and the dirty water to move. And from that, you can have new housing developments, right? One of the issues to create and sustain affordable housing, in many instances, you have to have a sufficient supply. In order to have a sufficient supply, they need water, right? And they need sewer. So you have to have that capacity. In order to have economic development, in many instances, you need that infrastructure. So it's a foundational issue. I would say water, sewer, and public safety are the key issues. If you have not mastered those things, you do not have a community to build on. And so over the next 10 years, we will be spending $4.27 billion to ensure that we have increased capacity, that we maintain the infrastructure that we have, and replace that which needs replacing, because water main breaks are tremendously disruptive. Sewer main breaks are even more disruptive at times. And so we're just going to upgrade that system so that, Matt, when your son is sitting in these types of seats or managing their own infrastructure, and you have grandchildren and their grandchildren, they have a community that they can build on and they're proud to live in.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Commissioner Johnson, this infrastructure development is a focus area for you in District 4. Can you kind of comment on what COO Williams said from that perspective?
Yes. So he mentioned the importance of water, sewer, and public safety, right? So I believe within the first 90 days of taking office, we made major investments in all three of those items last year. We passed the 10 by 10, which is where we get the 4.27 billion over the next 10 years. But we also increased pay for public safety. We implemented a real-time crime center. So we're laser focused on the three key areas that we need to sustain our community and grow our community. And that was evident in the actions that we took at the very beginning of my tenure, but which coincides with the tenure of Madam CEO. So they were really top of mind. And when we talk about infrastructure, I've talked about this podcast before in committee meetings or whenever I'm allowed to talk about infrastructure and geek out a little bit. It's not unique to DeKalb County that infrastructure was being ignored and not being invested in as much as it needed to be. That's a problem across the country. So the investments that we were able to make in water and sewer are critical, but the investments that we're talking about now in stormwater is also as critical, because those are problems that are on the horizon that we're trying to be more proactive with than we were able to be with water and sewer. So I know I'm the civil engineering nerd, and infrastructure is, is my jam, but it is so critical for the growth of our community, the sustainability of our community, so that we're for future generations, we still have a community left for them to grow and thrive in.
No, that's great. I mean, it's maintenance isn't always the most exciting thing that people for people, but it's so
It's
necessary.
so critical.
Yeah, yeah. So I applaud everyone's efforts to make sure those systems continue to work and improve. So now we're wrapping up here, but I always like to ask uh, people for some final takeaways for the everyday constituent like myself. What if you were to wrap this up, COO Williams, in a one or two takeaway things, what would you want listeners to take with them?
Well, let me start with, I want to give a shout out to Commissioner Chakira Johnson, because she represents, what you want in your elected leaders, right? The beauty of Commissioner Johnson is she brings a perspective as a professional engineer who knows working in government environments, but also as a legislator in Stone Mountain. And so those types of things have contributed greatly to her success and her ability to understand a lot of the issues understand and act on issues as we bring them to her. But now more than ever, it's time for residents to be engaged, to be informed, because we need a unifying message, a unifying voice, and just recognizing that we're in this together. At the local level, this is not partisan. I've yet to see a Republican pothole or a Democratic pothole. It's just a pothole, right?
Right.
And sometimes we may lose sight of that. And so what I would just encourage is all residents to be informed, to be engaged, and to recognize that you have leaders like CEO Cochran Johnson, Commissioner Chakira Johnson, and the rest of the elected officials who are working day in and day out to assure that their needs are met. And they are followed by 6,500 employees who show up, work hard, and tell the truth every day to make DeKalb County better.
Love it. Commissioner Johnson, any takeaways?
I mean, it sounds like I'm his favorite commissioner, but I know he can't say that. But what he said is so true. We really need an informed and engaged community and residents for us to do our job as effectively as possible, which is why another one of my focus areas this year is community connections, why we have this podcast, why we do our quarterly breakfast in the community. We're working so hard and diligently to make sure that we're getting information out to the community, but also that we're listening to what the community is saying to us. I know sometimes we get comments from the citizens that, oh, you guys aren't listening. We're listening. We just can't always do it exactly the way you want us to do it, but we have to take in all the voices, take in all sides and all angles, and make informed decisions. I think what you're seeing from the Madam CEO, from the administration, and from the Board of Commissioners is us working actively to do just that, to make sure that we're doing the best work we can for the community. And I think we're on a really good footing right now, and I really like the progress and the direction that we're going as a collective government body.
Great. Yeah. Positive note to end on. I like that. And I would ask COO Williams if he wants to tell people where to reach him, but it sounds like he gets enough phone calls as it is. So maybe we'll skip that.
I am definitely easy to find. I'm always here. And a couple of ways, to be honest with you, via email, and you can display my email. 311, though, we didn't talk about 311, but that is a system that when people have questions, comments, concerns, dial 311. They have something where we track issues, especially in those that come through commission offices, we have implemented what's called COO Tracker. So we capture every issue and work to get it resolved. So
Oh, I love that.
there are systems in place. Your concern is our concern.
Great. 311. All right.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Johnson, how can folks reach you?
Yep. If you ever have any needs or questions, please email me at shakira@DeKalbCountyGA.gov. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram under the handle @Commissioner Chakira Johnson. We're also on Bluesky or X as @Commissioner CJJ. Please also consider subscribing to the YouTube channel right here. If you find this podcast helpful and you want to know whenever a new podcast is released, just remember to hit the bell icon so you can receive notifications in the future. And again, I just appreciate everyone tuning in, and we look forward to sharing more information with you in our next episode.
All right. Sounds great. Well, thank you both. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Zach.
Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see y'all next time.